Last Child in the Woods: Saving Our Children from Nature Deficit Disorder by Richard Louv. One evening, when my boys were younger, Matthew, then 10, looked at me from across the restaurant table and said quite seriously, "Dad, how come it was more fun when you were a kid?" I asked what he meant. "Well, you're always talking about your woods and tree houses and how you used to ride that horse down near the swamp." At first I thought he was irritated with me. I had, in fact, been telling him what it was like to use string and pieces of liver to catch crawdads in a creek, something I'd be hard-pressed to find a child doing these days. Like many parents, I do tend to romanticize my own childhood, and, I fear, to readily discount my children's experiences of play and adventure. But my son was serious. He felt he had missed out on something important. He was right. Americans around my age, baby boomers or older, enjoyed a kind of free, natural play that seems like a quaint artifact. Within the space of a few decades, the way children understand and experience nature has changed radically. The polarity of the relationship has reversed. Today, kids are aware of the global threats to the environment, but their physical contact, their intimacy with nature, is fading. That's exactly the opposite of how it was when I was a child. As a boy, I was unaware that my woods were ecologically connected with any other forests. Nobody in the 1950s talked about acid rain or holes in the ozone layer or global warming. But I knew my woods and my fields. I knew every bend in the creek and dip in the beaten dirt paths. I wandered those woods even in my dreams. A kid today can likely tell you about the Amazon rainforest, but not about the last time he or she explored the woods in solitude, or lay in a field listening to the wind and watching the clouds move. This book explores the increasing divide between the young and the natural world, and the environmental, social, psychological, and spiritual implications of that change. It also describes the accumulating research that reveals the necessity of contact with nature for healthy child and adult development. While I pay particular attention to children, my focus is also on those people born during the past 2 or 3 decades. The shift in our relationship to the natural world is startling, even in the settings that one would assume are devoted to nature. Not that long ago, summer camp was a place where you camped, hiked in the woods, learned about plants and animals, or told firelight stories about ghosts and mountain lions. Today, summer camp is a weight-loss camp or a computer camp. For a new generation, nature is more abstraction than reality. Increasingly, nature is something to watch, to consume, to wear, to ignore. A recent television ad depicts a 4-wheel drive SUV racing along a breathtakingly beautiful mountain stream, while in the back seat 2 children watch a movie on a flip-down video screen, oblivious to the landscape and water beyond the windows. A century ago, the historian Frederick Jackson Turner announced that the American frontier had ended. His thesis has been discussed and debated ever since. Today, a similar and more important line is being crossed. Our society is teaching young people to avoid direct experience in nature. That lesson is delivered in schools, families, even organizations devoted to the outdoors, and codified into the legal and regulatory structures of many of our communities. Our institutions, urban and suburban design, and cultural attitudes unconsciously associate nature with doom, while disassociating the outdoors from joy and solitude. Well-meaning public school systems, media, and parents are effectively scaring children straight out of the woods and fields. In the patent or perish environment of higher education, we see the death of natural history as the more hands-on disciplines such as zoology give way to more theoretical microbiology and genetic engineering. Rapidly advancing technologies are blurring the lines between humans, other animals, and machines. The postmodern notion that reality is only a construct, that we are what we program, suggests limitless human possibilities. But as the young spend less and less of their lives in natural surroundings, their senses narrow, physiologically, psychologically, and this reduces the richness of human experience. Yet, at the very moment that the bond is breaking between the young and the natural world, a growing body of research links our mental, physical, and spiritual health directly to our association with nature in positive ways. Several of these studies suggest that thoughtful exposure of youngsters to nature can even be a powerful form of therapy for attention deficit disorders and other maladies. As one scientist puts it, we can now assume that just as children need good nutrition and adequate sleep, they may very well need contact with nature. Reducing that deficit, healing the broken bond between our young and nature, is in our self-interest, not only because aesthetics or justice demands it, but also because our mental, physical, and spiritual health depend on it. The health of the earth is at stake as well. How the young respond to nature, or how they raise their own children, will shape the configuration and conditions of our cities, homes, our daily lives. The following pages explore an alternative path to the future, including some of the most innovative environment-based school programs, a reimagining and redesign of the urban environment, one theorist calls the coming zoopolis, ways of addressing the challenges besetting environmental groups, and ways that faith-based organizations can help reclaim nature as part of the spiritual development of children. Parents, children, grandparents, teachers, scientists, religious leaders, environmentalists, and researchers from across the nation speak in these pages. They recognize the transformation that is occurring. Some of them paint another future in which children and nature are reunited, and the natural world is more deeply valued and protected. During the research for this book, I was encouraged to find that many people, now of college age, those who belong to the first generation to grow up in a largely denatured environment, have tasted just enough nature to intuitively understand what they have missed. This yearning is a source of power. These young people resist the rapid slide from the real to the virtual, from the mountains to the matrix. They do not intend to be the last children in the woods. My sons may yet experience what author Bill McKibben has called the end of nature, the final sadness of a world where there is no escaping man. But there is another possibility, not the end of nature, but the rebirth of wonder and even joy. Jackson's obituary for the American frontier was only partly accurate. One frontier did disappear, but a second one followed, in which Americans romanticized, exploited, protected, and destroyed nature. Now that frontier, which existed in the family farm, the woods at the end of the road, the national parks, and in our hearts, is itself disappearing or changing beyond recognition. But as before, one relationship with nature can evolve into another. This book is about the end of that earlier time, but it is also about a new frontier, a better way to live with nature.